Okie dokie. Well, thank you for showing up, Seb, and agreeing to do this. It's with great enthusiasm that the club has poured forth questions to ask you. We got a lot of the same questions, actually, from different people. So people want to know particular things, that's for sure.
Okay.
So I'm excited to ask you. So I want to start at the beginning.
Okay.
Which we have to go to Chile, I believe.
Yeah.
For that. Could you tell the club where you were born and a little bit about your childhood? This is something that I've been interested to know, what you were like as a child.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Santiago, Chile, and in within a month of being born there, though, I actually moved to the States. So my dad's job required a lot of moving. He's a diplomat. And so the first language I actually learned was English. And the second language I learned was Spanish. I spent 5 years in New York City as a child. Growing up, I don't have a lot of memories of what I was like up until around 5 or 6, but I seemed to be pretty social as a kid, from what my mom recalls and has told me. And then I moved to Chile when I was 7, 8 years old. And that I remember quite a bit because I couldn't speak the language. And so then that's when I learned Spanish. And I always remember being kind of socially awkward and not good at sports. And so you would never have seen any traces of, like, I guess, organizing a lot of teams for soccer in that sense. But yeah, that I spent a couple years in Chile, and then I spent 5 years in China, as most people know. And that's where I really started to play a lot more soccer. I was exposed to a lot of different cultures, and the unifying thing there with everyone was really the sport. So that's where it kind of took off for me. And if I really think about it now, that's probably the origin of how I feel that the sport brings people together and trying to create a sense of community out of it.
Okay, that was actually the next question you answered was what role did soccer play when you were a child? And it sounds like a pretty big one. When you started playing, were you a goaltender, a striker, bench warmer? What kind of position did you find affinity with?
When I was a kid. So to kind of complete the other idea, soccer did play a big role in helping me make friends, for sure. When I was in China, and also when I moved back to Chile. So something that you need to understand about the Chilean culture is that it is, if you look at it geographically, it's far from everything. Like, to get there on a plane, to get there by boat, it's far from pretty much anywhere that isn't South America. And so arriving as a kid that spoke broken Spanish with an accent, because when I speak in Spanish, I speak with an accent. I wasn't, like, it was tough to kind of break in a little bit into the existing social circles. So the best way to do that was through sport. And when I started playing in China, I didn't really have a position, but they did put me as goalie all the time. So that's what I did. I just played goalie, and it was where I kind of got some foundation. But really, it was in Chile that I grew into the role a little bit more. And the reason for that is because they were the school that I was at was in need of goalies, and I already had some. So I spent my entire grade 8 training, and then in grade 9 I made the school team. And so I was the starting goalie for the school team in grade 9, and then in grade 10, and then by the time I reached grade 10 I became captain. But yeah, that's kind of the childhood. I mean, I did play here in Canada during the high school. Fun fact, I didn't make the team when I was in grade 10. The coach didn't think I was good enough. So I spent a few years playing rugby, and then in grade 12 I came back and I was on the team.
Coach made a huge mistake that year. I bet the team went nowhere.
They actually did pretty well without me, but regardless.
Do you remember when you became a leader on the field? Have you always been like that? Do you remember a particular moment, like when you started maybe expressing yourself to your teammates?
A leader. So I want to, before I answer any other questions, I want to first say welcome everybody to episode 15 of Getting to Know. Today is the season finale as an AMA of Anything. Wonderful host, Chris Gollet. So I've asked, anybody can ask me anything, no holds barred. I'm not going to introduce myself because you guys all know me. That wouldn't make sense. And now to answer your question about the leadership, you know what? I've never really thought about it. When did I become a leader? I think I've always been a very strategic kind of person. I've always been a very logical kind of person. And as a kid, I always felt that things could flow a little bit better if we just had some structure to certain plays and stuff like that. And I think that's why I ended up becoming captain of a lot of teams. Like throughout high school, whatever sports team I did make it to, I eventually became the captain of. So I was a captain in soccer, and I was a captain in rugby. And I also was a captain of different intramural teams, which isn't the same thing because you were not necessarily picked there, but I did start a lot of teams. And I think the other thing with leadership is I also always felt comfortable in group dynamics for like schoolwork and stuff. Okay. In taking like that leadership role and organizing it, mostly because I liked getting good grades. And so I felt like, yeah.
So along that leadership line, you have started this club, or you call it a club, this organization. It's this all these teams you manage in Footy Sevens. And the number one question I think everyone asked this was, or some variant of it, is what is the genesis of the club? How did it start? When did you start calling it a club?
That's a great question. The genesis of it, if I'm really honest, is actually a book by my favorite coach of all time, Sir Alex Ferguson. For those of you that don't know, he's not a coach, he's a manager. In Europe, the managers are kind of like a hybrid between a GM and a coach here in North America. They run the day-to-day operations of the club, but they also manage the first team in matches. So Sir Alex Ferguson is the most winning manager of all time for Manchester United. He's also he was also the manager of United when they won the treble in 1999. He's written several books, and his book called Leading was what inspired me to kind of get this organization going. I call it a club. It is something that was done retroactively in the sense that like I kind of put older teams under the umbrella of it. But his book outlines basically many things about how to manage a soccer club, how to get things going, what you need to look for, the bringing people together. So that's the origin. And I read that book in June of 2016. No, that's incorrect. In May of 2017.
I'm a huge fan of Sir Alex Ferguson as well. Actually, I love Man United, and he won the treble twice as well.
Right.
Did you know he taught a management course at Harvard in retirement?
Yeah, he
really
talked.
An extraordinary manager.
He's an extraordinary man.
So the club is now it's like pretty big. Is there a way you can measure the growth of it? Could you give us an estimation of like where it started to where it's come?
Man, these are great questions. So I have an Excel sheet, and it kind of keeps track of all the players that I've had throughout history. So I can say that the number has grown from the original 10 through to 30. And now our numbers are average per year consistently 50 to 60 people. The way that I measure club membership is on a yearly basis from like November to November. Although now with the pandemic and everything, I'm able to hit the reset button a little bit, and I may start measuring it from January to January. It all depends on the footy seasons. But that's kind of how I would measure it. Yeah, like by the numbers, but also in terms of the number of teams that I'm able to run per season. Like at the start, I was only running one per season. Now I'm running 3 or 4. It's amazing to see that there's still interest for that. So that makes me really happy.
So I know you keep a lot of stats at the party, which is probably another way to measure the growth of the club. Is how often you have parties for your club.
Right.
Those didn't used to happen.
That's great.
You record all these goals. Do you record the performance of the club over time? Like, has goals per game gone up or down over time? Do you have a total goals scored by the club? Any other club stats you could give us?
You know what? I don't, but here's what I'll do. I can easily calculate that from the numbers that I have. So I will put that up in space right here during editing, and you're seeing the image now, of goals and assists for the entire club. We'll see if it's gone up or down. Maybe I'll do it in a pie chart or something. That's a great question.
Wins would be cool to know too, things like that. Club stats for the whole. I know you have it per individual, but it would be cool if you could somehow gather club stats.
Club stats. Okay, yeah. I didn't. People want to know. Okay, I'll put it together. If people want to know, I'll put it together.
What keeps you motivated to keep the club going? Like, I know it's a tremendous amount of work and organization. You ever feel tired of it or discouraged, and you need something to keep you moving, or what does keep you going?
I'm gonna get personal because a lot of people have gotten personal during these interviews. So here's just me kind of doing that. I've always felt a little bit on the outside of society, and that's because I traveled around a lot. So I've never been part of anything for long periods of time. Even within Canada, I've always felt a little bit on the outside of things. And soccer has always been a beautiful thing for me because I've always been able to feel part of something bigger than me. And now that I've been reading more and I understand that community is what creates more moments of happiness more than anything else, it makes sense that I would always be drawn to trying to create community moments for myself. What keeps me motivated, to be 100% honest, is people. I love seeing people week to week. I love seeing everyone week to week, and I love being with them. I love playing the sport. But if it was just about playing the sport, I would just join a bunch of teams and that's it. Sometimes I do get tired and I need a break. And in fact, this pandemic has been really good in the sense that it's been the first time in like years where I don't have to worry about collecting payments and stuff like that. But I wouldn't trade doing this for anything in the world. And I'm really happy to see that I've been able to keep this going for as long as it's been going. And I'll keep it going for as long as I'm able to keep it going. I've put you, just for everyone at home, I kind of put Chris on mute because I was echoing a little bit, but I'm going to unmute him now.
Thank you. I have my voice back, but thank you for sharing, more importantly. On behalf of all the club, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all the work you do. I'm sure you've been stiffed on payments a bunch of times. You're probably not getting rich doing it. I think it was John, I have it written down, wanted to know what you're doing with all the money that you've collected, or if you were going to retire early with your winnings.
Everything gets reinvested back into the community.
So thank you for all the effort that you put into it. Okay, I'd like to play a quick little game. We'll take like an intermission from questions about you.
Yeah.
So I want to see how well you know the club.
Ooh.
So I'm going to say, we're going to play like, who am I? I'm going to say something from as if I was a club member, and you have to guess which person it is.
Oh, I like this. Okay.
Okay. We'll start things off easy. I wore a bandana during my interview.
Nathan Pacheco.
Yes, that was me.
You said bandana, and that was it.
My longest bike ride was about 100 kilometers.
Ben.
Yep. Okay. My daughter's name is Eleanor.
Adele. Chechi, pardon me.
My brother is the reason I started playing soccer.
Celine. That was a good story.
My favorite club memory was Swifty versus Swifty. This could have been a bunch.
That's a lot of people's favorite memories, but I think this particular one was Erica.
Yep. My least favorite word is moist.
That's like 5 different people, but I think the people that said it are Jamie, Matt, Kara. I'm trying to remember who else would have said it. There's at least 2 more people that said it. Let me just go back and
okay, you got the one I had.
Oh, okay.
I had Matt.
Okay.
I never want to be a doctor.
Oh, snap. Okay.
I'm trying to stump you now, okay?
I never want to be a doctor. That's a good one. Let me just go through the list in my head of people that I've interviewed. I'm trying to remember. I never want to be a doctor. You know what? I can't remember.
That was Kat.
I'm sorry, Kat.
It's okay. You did really well on that. Not too bad at all.
I wanted to go for 100%. I feel like anyway.
I shouldn't have asked that one. I should have left you with a perfect.
No,
I'm sorry. That's on me.
It's not on you. It's on me.
Okay. We have a bunch of best and worst.
Okay.
I know the best and worst of a bunch of things. So let's start with goals. Your best goal and your worst goal.
Like goal that I scored?
Yeah. And goal that was scored on you.
That's easy. the worst goal ever scored on me was done by myself. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. So this one was we were in we were at Louis Riel, we were on field 2, and we were winning. I had the ball, I was playing in net, I went to throw it, and so I was gonna throw it to my left, and I saw that people were coming to the person that I intended to pass to. So I stopped throwing it, tried to tuck the ball back in, faced the net, and instead of hitting it, instead of holding onto it, I ended up throwing it into my own net. So that was by far the funniest and the worst goal that I ever scored.
Can you give us a good one? Like a positive goal?
That I scored?
Yes.
You know what? Funnily enough, I've scored a bunch of goals, but I don't actually remember a lot.
None stick out. That's okay.
There's one goal that I scored. Yeah, I remember other people's goals, but I don't remember my own. I remember a goal that I scored at Louis Riel, Field 1, and I didn't intend it to be this nice, but I ran to the right. I was at like half field, and then I hit the ball. It curved up, over, under, and it hit like the top left post, like the top left corner. But I had like 0 intention of hitting it that way, but it came out really nice.
Okay. The dirtiest player
In the club or opponent?
you've ever played against. You don't have to name anybody, but if you could describe what happened and how the referees dealt with that and how you dealt with that.
The dirtiest player I ever played against was actually in the Carleton intramurals a very, very long time ago. I don't actually know this person's name, but this person, I showed up a little late to the game. I was in an individuals team, and he kept making a sound in my ear, kind of like he was spitting into it. He kept clapping in my face. He kept stomping on my feet. He kept kicking me. And I was getting really frustrated. And the referee, the guy was smart. He was doing it in a way that the referee wasn't seeing. So there was nothing that I tried to bring it to the attention of the ref calmly, but the ref wasn't like, he was like, I'll keep an eye on it. And it just made the guy do it more. So what I ended up doing was I started doing the same thing to him. I made the stupid ear sound that he was making. He started getting really pissed off, and it didn't help. I remember that game. I don't remember a lot of goals, but I remember that game because I was angry, and I ended up scoring 3 goals that game. And after every goal that I scored, I would ignore him, which would piss him off. And then as soon as we're engaged again, I would be in his ear. It got so bad that he got pissed off, wanted to fight me, and his own teammates were like, dude, what are you doing? Like, this guy's not doing anything to you. His teammates had to pull him back. He took off his shirt in anger, ripped it, and left the field. So I didn't really care because he was being an asshole to me, but it's one of the few times in which I kind of got a little bit of justice.
Okay. Who was the best player you've ever played with?
Ever played with?
Yes.
Pano. He's not a club member. I'll name a club. Like, I don't like it's tough.
That's okay. Tell us about Pano.
It's tough for me to name a specific club member because I love everybody, but the best player I've ever played with is his full name is Panangiatis. I played with him on a couple of games, but mostly in the 2017 tournament in May. He is one of the absolute best. He was at one point one of the best players in the province. He was number one. He played at Carleton University for many years. He's one of the few players to make the team as a walk-on. So that's when A walk-on in university is usually you're invited to try out either before the university starts or whatever. Pano walked on first after 1 week of school starting. He made the team and he played for like 4 or 5 years. And Coach Sandy Mackey, who coached Carleton for like 20, 30 years, named Pano as the best player he ever coached. He's in the Carleton Hall of Fame. You'll see his name, you'll see his face there. Like, he's an absolute fucking legend. And by far, more than anybody I've ever played with, he's the best.
So he played in the Footy Sevens in the tournament?
He played in 2017 Footy Sevens with me on May 13th, 2017 in the Legion of Swiftiness or Swifty Legion of Fun or something like that.
So you remember the day. That's how special this was.
May 13th, 2017 was a very special day for me because that was the first time that I put in two teams together, and the recreational team won the trophy, and the advanced team ended up beating Galacticos in the quarterfinals. So that was two huge wins for me that day, and it was personally a fantastic time. So, yep. I'm very good with certain dates.
Was that like the best game ever for Legion? Or rather the whole club?
It's not fair for me to compare Legion versus co-eds. I'll say this: the best men's game that I've ever been a part of with the club is the Legion final in 2000 on February. I want to say February 10th, 2019. That was the best men's game. That's the one that's been talked about quite a bit with Tarek and with Matt and with Nathan Pacheco. By far the best game I've ever seen the men's team play. We were in sync in a way that I've never seen, and the pace of it was just unreal. And I was so happy to be part of something like that. Even if I wasn't playing, even if I was just on the sidelines, it was just incredible. The best co-ed game that I can remember, the one that sticks out. The one that's, I mean, the Get 50 game was a lot of fun, but if I'm talking about quality of game and like best output overall, it was in 2014, Team FC versus Huff Doggin It. It was a regular season game, and it was 9-8 final. We lost, but Huff Doggin It at that time had Bren Walker, who's the former captain of the Algonquin College soccer team, and a bunch of other really great players. And they were like really strong. And we came out there, we had just finished playing in Division 2 and we got promoted to Division 1. That was the first season Ahmed joined us. And we took it to them in a way, they also had Tarek on the team. We took it to them in a way that had never been taken to them before. Ahmed scored. That was also, coincidentally, the best game Ahmed has ever had in his life. He scored 5 goals, including one from half at Louis Riel. And that was back when Louis Riel's nets were really small. And he fucking hit it from half field and hit top left corner. Like nothing anybody could have done. It was insane. And that game, like just the way everybody was moving, the pace. And you got to consider, like, we're playing against university talented players like Tarek Bren and Brandon and Taylor and Liz was on that team. And it's just, and we've got guys that growing up played recreational soccer, house league, apart from a handful of people. That was what we were mostly made up of. And we're fucking taking it to them like no tomorrow. So I always remember that game with a lot of pride. We've had some other great games. Like we beat Magpie 14-3. And I'm really proud of that game. But if I had to pick one, if I really had to pick one, that would be, even though we lost, it would be that one.
Nice. Good choice. Okay, we'll leave it on a positive note. We don't want to know the worst game unless you really want to share.
If people want to know, nothing's off limits.
Okay, what was the worst game? The low point.
The lowest point for me was, I don't remember the exact date, but it was around the end of April of 2019. That was the lowest point for me. we were playing in. I was playing in the DS Bobby team, and we were losing a game, and I got 2 yellow cards, one for um, one for dissent, and a second for a late foul. I don't know what was going on with me. I was at a very tough period. That around that time I was going through a tough period, and I unleashed on the other team. But more than that, I unleashed on the referee in a way that I'm absolutely ashamed about. And I got it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
I was there. I remember. I think I subbed.
Yeah, you were there subbing. That was for me personally. It's not the worst game the team has played. The team played a decent game, but it was my lowest point. That's in the 10 years or 11 years that I've been doing this. That's like the thing I'm ashamed of the most.
I do remember that game. Not that I'm condoning your actions. It was a tense game with each team was being mean to the other team.
Yeah, but that happens all the time. My behavior in that game was inexcusable, and I think about it sometimes and I cringe. I've had a lot of like bad moments, and I'm hoping to not I'm hoping I know that I'm going to be a lot more calm when we return, and I have been a lot calmer over the years, but that was a particularly really shitty incident.
Well, I know I don't speak for the whole club, but you are like super passionate, and I understand that with that passion, sometimes it's gonna boil over a little bit. You don't get to have the super passionate go getter without sometimes crossing the line a little bit.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Still doesn't excuse it, but anyways.
So why are you playing volleyball? I thought footy was your sport. You were coming from volleyball to this interview.
Oh yeah.
Is there this other side of Seb we don't know about?
Well, you know what? I actually have picked up volleyball very on and off throughout my life. Never really committed to it, but I've always kind of enjoyed that it's different. You know, you're using your arms a lot more. It's a lot more technical. And I really gained an interest in it playing in a few tournaments called the Sand Jam over the past couple of years. Now, the reasons why I started playing in that tournament no longer apply, but I would continue to do it because I picked up more interest in it. And so now I'm kind of just the reason why I went to play volleyball was because I was invited. I was invited to play volleyball, and I'm trying to get better at it. And I think it's important to be a well-rounded individual, and I don't regret spending the last 10, 11 years really specializing in one sport because I was able to you can't build a community if you're not obsessed about it. But I'm at a point now where now I kind of want to keep what I have going and then maybe pick up a few things on the side. I'll never be as intense about anything as I am about football, soccer, but yeah.
Do you find in volleyball you're using your feet when you should be using your hands? Your teammates are yelling at you, get in position. Instead, you reach for the ball with your foot.
That's funny because that actually happened to me today. Instead of going for digs, which are like the deep dives, I kept going for like leg lunges. So
okay, I can relate. Is there something we don't know about you that you would like to share, like a hobby you do?
So I'm trying to think of something interesting that people don't know that I do. Um,
Do you do like a great cover of Celine Dion, or maybe you draw
I used to
music?
be I used to be in a choir, but my voice I realized I'm not very as good as singing as I used to be when I was younger. Um Something, okay, are you looking for a talent? Because I make jigsaw puzzles. I build jigsaw puzzles for
You
fun.
make jigsaw puzzles.
Oh, I don't make them, I build them.
Oh, okay.
Put together.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
This is something that I did. You can see the reflection of my computer in it, but this is a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle.
The puzzle's coming through pretty good. That's a heck of a puzzle.
Yeah, I've done a few of these that are framed. I did a 500-piece puzzle that I've got framed here as well. Yeah, I guess that'd be something cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, I've got a couple of like one-off questions that people want to know.
Yep.
Do you believe in reincarnation?
No. But off the heels of my conversation with Matt, I'm very interested in continuing like a spirituality sort of knowledge quest, because I have felt a lot of deja vus, and I'm very intrigued by the idea of these being explained by former lives. So I don't believe in it, but I like the concept.
So you're thinking like, you know, in Mario Kart, you do a lap and then you see your ghost and like you pass your ghost, and maybe so a previous life you're like passing your ghost in like a previous life, and whenever you cross paths, you sneeze or something.
That's an excellent analogy, and yes, that's exactly what I would akin it to.
Do you keep putting Nathan on defense so you can look at his fine backside?
Yes.
Why did you think Lisa was older than Amie?
Ooh. I don't have any particular reason. I think it's just because, and this is going to sound stupid, it's because she's a mom and Amie is not. That's the only reason.
Are you a secret agent?
I wouldn't be a very good one if I answered that question, but no. Maybe.
Okay, I think I got them all there.
Amazing.
Okay, that's all for my written down questions.
Uh-oh.
So last question. We got one more.
Okay.
What turns you on?
Emotionally, spiritually, or sexually? Okay. So I'll do something different here. I'll answer one for each.
Oh, damn.
So what turns me on emotionally is overcoming a challenge. Whether it's through sport, work, or in my personal goals, every time I overcome a challenge or anticipating overcoming a challenge gets me really excited. That's what helps me get motivated for my ridiculous marathon sessions of like playing 7 games in a row or biking 177 kilometers. It's that. What turns me on spiritually is connection with people that I care about. That helps keep me going. And as I mentioned before, being part of a community and having a sense of community is really important to me because I've always felt like an outsider. So having that really gets me going spiritually. And sexually, this one's a little difficult because the thing for me, and people are going to go, it's a cop out, it's the face. And the reason why it's the face, it's because that's what I'm looking at, like almost always. Like I'm not, like when I'm sitting down and having a conversation with you, I'm not looking at your breast or your ass or whatever. I'm looking at your face. So if I can't look at your face, then I'm not going to be able to get anything going in the engine room. So, you know, as whatever as that sounds to anybody, for me, I would defend this to the death is the face.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Sorry, there was one more about the soccer that I forgot to ask. The team names and the cheers. Could you tell us where they come from? So we got Bobby, Ichigai, Papaya, Legion, Selenia. I'm forgetting a bunch, I'm sure.
Uh,
Swifty, the Vow, the Papaya Vow, or something. There's a million in one of them.
oh boy. Okay. A fun fact that some people might not know about me is that I actually like to write stuff. I would never share anything that I write publicly, but I do consider myself lenient towards creative when it comes to words. I'll try to remember all the team names and see where the inspiration came from them, starting with the Get Swifty. So Get Swifty is actually from Rick and Morty. Everybody knows, or most people will know, pardon me. There was a song that came out called Get Swifty where um, Rick Sanchez and Morty are looking at trying to save the world from an intergalactic music contest, and he just makes up a song on the spot, and it's called Getting Swifty. And when I first named the team that, I used to bring a boombox where we would play that song during warm-ups. That lasted a season because nobody was really into it. Eventually, I stuck with the name Get Swifty simply because I wanted to keep the same consistent name. And because Get Swifty has lost its meaning, like it doesn't really mean anything, I've just now said it's GS. So that's why you'll see in the future team names that they're simply named GS. Legion comes from just me thinking that the word is really cool. That's it. I just think the word is insanely cool and perfect for describing a strong united front. The papaya vow is it's a story that comes from my single days in 2017, where my friend and I, Popovich, actually, we were at a pho place, and we used to get these papaya shakes at this pho place, and I'd always get the papaya shake, and we'd go a lot. And one day I was just frustrated with the dating life at that point. So I told Popovich, I'm making a vow right here, right now, no women from now until whatever. And as a joke, Popovich told me that I should name one of the teams the Papaya Vow. And I said, I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to make it the Papaya Vow, and then I'm going to create this ridiculous story and bring papayas. And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, I remember you giving the other team the papaya too, because we had so much papaya to go around.
Nobody wanted to eat it all. It was delicious. Solenia comes from Rick and Morty again. It's the episode with Pickle Rick, and it's a hilarious story, and I just thought that it had a nice ring to it. Bobby was actually one of the few team names that doesn't come from me. It's a team name where, like, I decided to name the team Bobby Pins because because a club member had a lot of bobby pins, and I was just making fun of that. Now, people didn't really respond to the name Bobby Pins, so I ended up changing it to something else, and I forget what I changed it to, but nobody liked it. Nobody liked it, and I left on a business trip, so I missed the game. And when I came back, people were just like, yeah, we changed the name back to Bobby, but just Bobby, because it had a nice
ring. The pins.
Yeah, so they dropped the pins, and they just kept it to Bobby. And I liked it, so I kept it. And obviously, I kept it because team consensus. And then sometimes I'll put in little weird words like Gaiden.
Ichigai.
ikigai, ikutalta. Some of those words are just side story, like a side story to the main GS branch. Ikigai is just my failure at an attempt to create a long-lasting name that would eventually become Bobby in later seasons. Um, it's a Japanese word. I'm very fascinated by Japanese culture and stuff. It's a Japanese word that means a reason for being. Like it's a mantra more than anything. And I'm butchering the explanation, but essentially it's just like, what is your reason for doing things every day?
Okay, that's a real like deep.
I think that's why I didn't take off. It's too deep.
Okay, well, thank you for being a participant on the show.
Yeah, it was.
It's been good having you.
Yeah, I think before we go, Chris, I really want to thank everyone for tuning in and week out to these shows. But I'm gonna do my own version. People have asked me questions, but I'm assuming people didn't ask these questions because they knew it would be asked. Pivot's 10 questions. So I think I'm gonna go with Pivot's 10 questions, and I haven't thought about them. I promised that I wouldn't learn them. So Chris, I'm not sure if you remember all the questions.
Here, I will do the asking, okay? This is my show. I do the interviewing. Next up, we're going to ask Seb Pivot's 10 questions.
I'm gonna edit that other stuff out.
Okay. Well, we did ask one of them. Okay.
Yeah.
Do they have to be done in order? Do you know? Is there some?
The reason that they're done in order is actually to build up more trust, and that way you crescendo up to the. Like if you notice the questions, they start very shallow, and then they crescendo up to the final question.
They get tougher and tougher.
Yeah. Okay.
What is your least favorite word?
Excrement.
Okay, that's a good choice. Sorry, I got the order backwards of the first two. What's your favorite word? I hope you didn't mix that up.
My favorite word. My favorite word is a word that I rarely, if ever, have used, but it's vivacious. I love powerful V sounds, and I love that it reflects the sounds to me reflect exactly what the word means. So it's yeah.
You might like Vivaldi, the composer.
I love the name.
Okay, we asked this, but it's worth refreshing in case people skip. What turns you on?
Okay, so emotionally, what turns me on is the feeling of achieving something, overcoming a challenge, whether that be through work, sport, or in the personal. What turns me on spiritually is human connection because I've always been on the outside of things. So I love being a part of, I love, that sense of belonging. And sexually, it's a face because that's what I'm going to spend most of the time looking before, during, and after.
And what turns you off?
I'll answer these. I'll give it the same attention. I'll give it the same attention. What turns me off emotionally is repetitive tasks. I hate repetitive tasks. They're not creative, so they're not engaging for me. And I'm the kind of person that needs to have something dynamic going on. That's also why I'm always trying to find something to do every night. And if the job gets, like, I don't mind doing a little bit of administration work and repetitive work once in a while, but if that's always what's going on, monotony is mind numbing. What turns me off spiritually? Oh, this one's interesting. What turns me off spiritually is overzealousness. And what I mean by this is today I had a long conversation with a lady from Israel who was telling me that she's Catholic, but she was persecuted in Israel, as apparently a bunch of Catholics are, from what I learned, because she's not Jewish, because she's not of the Judaic faith. That type of overzealousness turns me off spiritually. And it's not unique to that specific situation. It happens around the world and for various reasons that we all know. And if we're talking in a strict spiritual sense, that that turns me off big time. And what turns me off sexually, uh, oh, a shrill voice. There are a bunch of things that turn me off sexually, but I think I'll stick to saying here a shrill voice. If I can't stand the sound of your voice, it does not matter how good looking you are. I'm not going to want to go anywhere near you.
Okay, I think we know the answer to one of the next questions, but first, what sound or noise do you love?
Rain. I love the sound of rain.
Like hitting the window or the ground?
Anything. Car, rock, windshield, window, ground, just the sound of rain.
Have you ever been beside a lake when it's raining and hear the rain like hitting the water?
Yeah,
That's a really nice sound.
it's a beautiful sound. I live close to Dow's Lake, and sometimes, not a lot, but I in the rain, I will sit down on a bench and just listen to the rain.
That's a good one. Okay, what sound do you hate?
The sound that I hate most in the world is nails on a chalkboard.
Is that got a connection to the shrill voice? Like,
No, no connection. It's just the sound that I hate. It makes me cringe. Even thinking about it, like, annoys me. Like, you can see my face has changed.
okay, yes. What is your favorite curse word?
Mindfuck. That's something that the closest people to me will know. I tried to come up with like making up my own word, my own like catch curse word, and I went through a very long period of time in which all I was saying is that's such a mind fuck. But yeah, that one.
Is that really a curse word though? That's more like oh man, Inception. That was a mind fuck. Or like when
Okay.
things are like, whoa, dude.
All right. Well, in that case, my favorite curse word would have to be cunt, and only because that's the only remaining word that when you say it still has a powerful impact. And I think it's even more powerful than fuck because when you really dissect the word, what makes fuck strong is the ending, but you put that great part right at the beginning and you just deliver that like you're a fucking cunt. Like that's the only. There's a bit that Joe Rogan does on that word, and I love it. But yeah, that would be the one.
Are there any Chilean or Spanish curse words you could share?
Yeah,
Maybe
there's
something you picked up in China.
yeah, in China it's chaunima, which is the equivalent of concha tu madre in Spanish, which doesn't actually have a translation in English. I know how to say it in Serbian. It's pichkuti madre. Basically, it means your mother's nether regions. That's basically what it means. In Chile, we use a lot of weon, which is just like, yeah, weon. And it's very versatile. It can literally mean anything from like buddy to you're a dumbass.
Okay. Next question. What profession other than your own would you like to do or attempt?
I already coach, but I would love to be a national coach, whether it's for youth team or adults men's team. I would love to be a national coach of Preferably one of the countries that I have an affinity towards, such as Chile or Canada. But, you know, just any country would be nice too. Just having that pride of being able to do that and participate at a FIFA level competition. That would be amazing for me.
Oh yeah. How about job? What would you not like to do?
I think a mortician. I would never want to do that.
Okay, I think I can get why.
Yeah. A little dark.
All right, last one.
Okay.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You mattered.
Absolutely. I think he'd say that. You made a difference in a lot of people's lives organizing all the footy. I know I really appreciate it, playing on your teams.
I want to thank everybody for all their years, months. It doesn't matter how long you've been playing on the team. Any amount of time, I never forget it. And I'm very thankful, Chris, for putting together all of these questions and doing an excellent job of moderating and asking and interviewing me. I really hope that you guys got what you wanted out of this. I certainly got what I wanted out of all of the interviews with you guys, which is to share more. And I used to have a philosophy of not sharing myself very openly, but you know, things change a lot over a lifetime, and I hope this gives you all a better sense of who I am, you know, behind the yelling, which I hope to kind of curb down a little bit over the next few years. So I know Chris is the one interviewing me, but it is technically my show, and so I'm going to sign it off as thank you for tuning in to 15 episodes of Getting to Know. I will maybe release a video here and there, but it won't be with any sort of frequency or pattern. And I look forward to seeing everybody as we reopen, as we enter phase 2 and phase 3 of the pandemic. I love you all, and I look forward to seeing you real soon. Until then, Chris, you can sign us off.
Thank you, everybody, and thanks for putting all the videos together, all the editing. That takes time.
Yeah.
Night, everybody, or as they say in Chile, adios. Buenas noches. Adios.
Adios.
Growing up, you don't see the writing on the wall. Passing by, moving straight ahead, you knew it all. But maybe sometimes, if you feel the pain, find you all alone. Everything has changed. Play the game. Only you can do what must be done. You gotta soldier on. You know you can't quit until it's won. You know in some way you're a lot like me, just a prisoner, and you're trying to break free. I can see a new horizon.